wants to live forever? Who wants to live forever? There's no chance for us.
No, no. No, 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 no. Yeah! Oh, yes. About a year ago, I started going to internet sites under various screen names. I had different screen name than I did now, but I was going to XJW websites and chat rooms and forums to I was curious, wanted to look around. I wanted to find out, what are apostates? Who are these people you speak of? And I had reservations about the whole idea of it. You see, Jehovah's Witnesses have various theories and ideas about apostates, and they change from time to time. Back in the old days, you see, Jehovah's Witnesses used to teach that apostates were puppets of Satan. And that's not a figure of speech, by the way. They literally believed that Satan was operating people like puppets. Like he was making their mouth move up and down. Put words in their brains. Yeah! I'm Satan. I can make that happen. You don't know the extent of my powers. And maybe that's different now. That was back in the 80s. I haven't heard that one recently. Also back in the 80s, they taught that apostates were people who went insane. The example I can remember was Chris LaPrath, whom I told you about. He was a brother with privileges. His wife was a pioneer. His brother-in-law was a top Bethel lawyer. Anyway, after a convention, guy reads a handbill. Apostates had folded up a piece of paper, stuck it inside his gas cap. Oh, heavens, no. Throw that in the trash. Don't read that, Brother LaPrath. And he reads it. A week later, he's done. Doesn't want to be a JW. And he tries to talk to people about the apostate handbill that was left for him. And he is quickly quarantined by the elders. The congregation is told not to speak to him. His wife divorces him. We'll never know what was written on that piece of paper. But his wife Mary was with him at the time, and she begged him not to read it, and he did anyway. And that's all she wrote. You do wonder what was written on that piece of paper. It must have been something good. Yeah! That must have been top-notch stuff. You must have read about sale of orange juice. Just kidding. No, enough with the orange juice. Stop. In the 1980s, the apostate thing was highly Christianized. Is that a word? I'll check my thesaurus later. In fact, the apostate thing almost seemed like an offshoot sect of the JW religion. People who strongly disagreed with certain Bible interpretations of the Watchtower, but they still looked like JWs. They wore suits and ties. They printed their own literature and magazines. and they even witnessed on street corners. Somehow, this made them seem even more satanic. Just kidding. But honestly, I always thought of the apostate threat being more like something that was hatched by the churches of Christendom. That just seemed like the simplest, most logical explanation to me. The mainstream churches, they print up some brochures and tracts that look like Watchtower literature, and they circulate them. And they get some JWs to switch sides and convince others to. The big turnoff for me was, look, I had known people who rebelled against the organization. People with bad attitudes, like Ethan. Now, I'm not talking about people who got DF'd. They always say those people were unrepentant. No matter how much the people would beg and say, "No, brothers, please don't disfellowship me," they still DF them. And then they tell the congregation that they were unremorseful. Not talking about that. I mean, I've known people who were openly defiant to the elders and irreverent of their authority and the process in general. Again. Usually they were people who were baptized at 15, and then by the time they were 18, they had picked up an attitude. Probably at high school. Damn them. High school kids with their BlackBerry phones and their high-top sneakers with neon shoelaces. And these young people, their disposition was, go ahead and disfellowship me. I want you to. It was like a coming of age thing where people would get baptized and then disfellowship. They'd smile about it, and all the teenagers would joke about when they were going to get disfellowship. The bad ones. The bad ones. Not the little Tinkerbells like me. The baddies. And those young people kind of got grouped together in the apostate category, even though looking back now, it's sort of a stretch. They were just rebellious. It wasn't a fact-finding mission, if you know what I mean. What's wrong with the kids today? I don't understand rap music. And needless to say, I was skeptical about the whole XJW scene of DF'd people congregating together. It reminded me of when you go to district conventions, and on the very top row you will see a couple of disfellowshipped guys up there. They have beards or goatees, and they'll have an earring, and they'll be sitting there. They have like ties on, but they'll have their sleeves rolled up, and they'll be like, you know, they'll be like dropped down in their chairs, bad posture, and they'll just be like sitting there making fun of everyone. That's kind of the apostate thing. There wasn't any real apostates around where I was from. That was the closest. Then people would say they're apostatizing. Fellowship people aren't supposed to speak to each other. Well, you can't speak to JWs, and you're not supposed to speak to worldly people either. Who's left? But they would be up there, and they would be snickering and laughing at all the bastards at the conventions and apostates. Yeah! There was also an added element of surprise at this time. You see, while I had been visiting these XJW message boards and chat rooms, I had come into contact with some people. Or so I thought. Maybe it was one person. Who knows who or what it was? But these screen names, I will call them, had befriended me, and I began instant messaging with them. Oh, I've heard of instant messaging. It's very naughty. It's when naked people show their pictures to each other. Around this time, I created a YouTube channel. Just a little one. And these now defunct screen names were sending me messages. They were spending a lot of time trying to warn me about another YouTuber called Propaganda Techniques. These screen names that purported to be disfellowshipped ex-JW human beings were trying to convince me that Propaganda Techniques was a Watchtower agent who was using mind control to mislead the ex-JW community. Ah! I'm out of here! Where's my go-kart? I have to get out of here, and quickly! I don't want to die with the rest of you! Now, I wasn't born yesterday, so I didn't fall for this. Hook, line, and sinker. Not me. I grew up watching Cookie Monster. I know what's going on. But I was paranoid. I had trust issues. A lifetime of involvement in JW culture had left me traumatized, obviously. But also, I had been alone for a long time. I was isolated. And more than anything, I was angry. I had a deep, unrelenting anger that never went away. It barely let me sleep at night. And when I began on YouTube, I was not really a nice guy. I didn't trust anyone. I didn't know anyone. I started a YouTube channel with the express purpose of ridiculing Jehovah's Witnesses. But something happened to me along the way. I started making friends. Real friends. The best friends I've ever known in my life. All of you out there who have been so kind to me. I've never had people like you in my life before, and you inspired me. And all I wanted to do was stand with you and fight beside you. And every step of the way has been a privilege. But something else happened along the way. I woke up one day and I wasn't angry anymore. The deep, burning anger that tortured me day and night was gone. There's still things about my life and my past that upset me and make me sad and even depressed sometimes. But that terrible, monstrous anger I lived with for so long is gone now. Getting to be with you, all my dear friends, has healed my heart in a way that I didn't think I'd live to see. And it's from my heart that I want to say something to you. Something you may not have ever expected me to say. This fight we're having against Watchtower Corporation, don't let it become who you are. This battle is worthy of your time, but it's not worthy of your life. Each and every one of you, your lives are precious. Each day, each minute of life, it's irreplaceable. And whoever you are out there watching this video right now, I just want to say this to you. Your life is worth more than Jehovah's Witnesses say it is. That goes for you too, Batman. Especially you. And what I wish for you is to live your lives. There are songs to sing, paintings to paint, and friends to find. And I wish all those things for you, friends. Don't let your experiences with Watchtower Corporation define you. You know, the greatest crime that Watchtower commits is stealing people's lives away from them. They tell them that this isn't the real life. You're not living the real life. This life you're living in the present is only a dim shadow of the real life. And the only way to get to the real life is to expend and exhaust your current little life doing the door-to-door preaching work. That's how you will receive your reward. But remember, it's opposite day. You get cheesecake. It's opposite day, friends. You know, the real life is right now, and the real life they say is the real life is the non-life. It's non-existent. Again. Watchtower has never delivered the real life to anyone. In 137 years, they have never made good on that promise. Not one time, not for one single person, not ever. Millions of people muddle through their miserable existence, viewing it as a chore they have to finish to get to the real life, the better life. And then, when it's all over, Watchtower hands them poof, nothing. You know what's funny about the Watchtower organization? Even after it's gone, it still has some magical way of sucking life out of you. Don't let it suck your life away, friends. Do I sound like a just move oner right now? You kinda do! Well, guess what? I don't care. I'm speaking to you from the heart. Here's the difference. When a Watchtower shill tells you to move on, what they want is for you to go away and stop talking. Friends, I don't want you to go away, and I don't want you to stop what you're doing. Keep fighting the good fight. But friends, I say this from the bottom of my heart. Don't wear this Jehovah thing around your neck forever. Don't take it to the grave with you. It's not worth it. And if you live with that constant blazing anger like I once did, I hope you can cast out your demons, and I hope you can heal your heart while there's still time left in your life. One day, I asked myself a question. If you could describe Jehovah's Witnesses in 1 or 2 sentences, what would it be? And I said, there was a magazine company that came up with the idea you could never die. And then some people wanted it to be true so bad, they were willing to do anything. And I think one day, history will look back on JWs and remember them as just that. The people who thought they could live forever. And when you view them through that lens, it's easier not to be angry. The JWs in your life and in your past, they were people who wanted to live forever. And it's hard to stay mad at people who just didn't ever want to die. And even though my lifetime spent in the world of Jehovah's Witnesses was brutal and debasing, I wouldn't go back and change it now. I really wouldn't. Because during this long and treacherous journey, I learned a secret. I learned something that many people will go their whole lives without ever finding out. There's no way to never die. You can't live forever. But somehow, you can love forever. It's possible. Thanks for being here with me. Goodbye, friends.
Want to live forever? Who wants to live forever?
Had folded up a piece of paper, stuck it inside his gas cap. Oh, heavens no! Throw that in the trash. Don't read that, Brother LaPrade. And he reads it. A week later, he's done. Doesn't want to be a JW. And he tries to talk to people about the apostate handbill that was left for him. And he is quickly quarantined by the elders. The congregation is told not to speak to him. His wife divorces him. We'll never know. I can make that happen. You don't know the extent of my powers. And maybe that's different now. That was back in the 80s. I haven't heard that one recently. Also back in the 80s, they taught that apostates were people who went insane. The example I can remember was Chris LaPrade, whom I told you about. He was a brother with privileges. His wife was a pioneer. His brother-in-law was a top Bethel lawyer. Anyway, after a convention, guy reads a handbill. Apostates had stuck it. I had different screen name than I did now, but I was going to XJW websites and chat rooms and forums to I was curious, wanted to look around. I wanted to find out, what are apostates? Who are these people you speak of? And I had reservations about the whole idea of it. You see,
Wants to live forever? Wants to live forever? There's no chance for us.
no. Yeah! Oh, yes. About a year ago, I started going to internet sites under various screen names. Jehovah's Witnesses have various theories and ideas about apostates, and they change from time to time. Back in the old days, you see, Jehovah's Witnesses used to teach that apostates were puppets of Satan. And that's not a figure of speech, by the way. They literally believed that Satan was operating people like puppets. Like he was making their mouth move up and down and putting words in their brains. Yeah! I'm Satan!